All right, Max, what are we reviewing today? And for anyone else watching this, this and the next couple reviews, they're definitely going to be heavier reviews because they're taking on really heavy topics, some of them quite recent. It doesn't get more recent than War on Gaza by Joe Sacco. This is, it is well, I'll keep it simple, right? This is obviously a story about the ongoing conflict with Israel Palestine, especially some of the just atrocities that have happened in Gaza. This is not taking some political stance. I think when I reviewed How to Understand Israel in 60 Days or Less, which came out admittedly quite before the October attacks and this war. But without trying to comment on it, this book will really help you, regardless of what you think. If you want to get a really strong perspective on why you should care about the plight of the Palestinian people, this book will do it. This is going to be a slightly different review. This book is all of 32 pages long. It was just made last year, so I don't want to even show too much of it because I feel like just percentage wise, every page that I'd be showing is like a decent chunk of the whole thing. So I'll show a couple things, but first off with the scores, starting off with the characters. This is the weakest score I gave it because you don't get too many big characters in here. The author himself is a character in the story, and then the only other huge characters I would say are some various politicians. Joe Biden, unfortunately, does not come off strong in this book for his role in how all this unfolded. This also gives you a sense of the art, which is the very next category. So maybe I'll talk on characters and art at the same time. This story is not meant to be like a first-person narrative, coming of age or anything. It really is trying to give a plight of a people at a particular time in history, which is basically happening right now. So the main characters are not meant to be liked. The main characters are politicians and people sort of abusing their power in the perspective of the author. So that score can't probably be the highest thing. You're not reading this to rehash the main characters probably. And in terms of the art, you get a sense of the style here, and I'll show the back cover as well. These are parts of the comic too. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think it's strong. There's not this book is almost entirely black and white. There's, I think, only one page with color on it, and I'm not going to ruin it by showing that. But I do think the art style is maybe, I don't think it's particularly like aesthetically my favorite thing, but I do think there is something about it. I give it a strong score because it is very like jarring and strong, and some of these panels in this book I think have a similar feel to Mouse for me. For those that have read Mouse, the famous, this is similar to Mouse in a sense where it's talking about a genocide. It's talking, or most people agree anyway, that there's tons of killing that should not be happening here, and he calls it at some point. The phrase he had was something like, I don't want to ruin that either, maybe. Genocidal self-defense. Okay, I will ruin it. So there's sort of, there's something for both sides to argue with, according to him. But so anyway, there's some of these images in this that remind me of some of the later pages in Maus in Auschwitz, where it's deliberately ugly and horrible because you're looking at just death that shouldn't happen. But it is, I think, part of that's what art can do. It can visualize something that even when it's painful, it sticks with you and it changes you a bit. So I think the art score is good. But yeah, the part that I think sticks out for sure is the history and culture aspect of this. If these books are meant to transport you to another place or to help you understand a different people or perspective, hard to imagine a book that does a better job of this. It really does capture, I think, a very important historical, cultural time, place, moment, all of this stuff in a way that's very powerful and moving. Again, I think regardless of what you think about this, I'd be surprised if somebody didn't read this and walk away with at least an increased empathy. So yeah, I mean, hard to imagine something that does a better job at a kind of history, cultural perspective. In terms of the readability, this is again a little bit of a funny one. So like I mentioned, it is only 32 pages long. This is a very short book. So in that sense, incredibly readable. It's also happening right now, so maybe I'm biased a little bit, but it's readable in the sense of almost like keeping up with what's happening in the world right now. So in that sense too, it was easy to complete this in a single sitting. Do I think that if this was like 200 pages, do I think that like the word ratios and some of the other stuff, or just frankly the harshness of it, makes it super readable? Not necessarily, but I think that, again, it reminds me a little bit of Mouse. It's just probably biased more by the fact that this is happening right now. Like Mouse, I still think can be a very readable book, despite it having a lot of words in it and despite it being longer. But the harder parts are probably just because there are some parts of that book which are quite hard. So in that sense, it's almost like never going to be able to be a super readable book because it's got the natural friction of being around such a sensitive, hard topic. So I think 7 out of 10 is, to me, probably fair. It's short, it is readable, but the subject matter is quite tough. So it isn't something that is frictionless. And then finally, for the X Factor part, I gave this an 8 out of 10 because, a couple things that are super interesting about it. Again, one, it's incredibly short and topical. Like, this is the most topical book that I may ever, read in the graphic novel variety, because, again, it just happened last year. This is, like, almost at the point of news, It's so recent and ongoing. And then the other, I'll show the one page I showed before as well. There's also, I think, just some really smart stuff woven into this in terms of literary. I'm butchering this, but there's a very I think powerful. Oh my gosh, I'm still so bad at doing this every single time. All right, I'm gonna try to. Eventually, I'll create a system. Okay, so you can see here this. No, I'm doing the wrong one. I think it's because I'm always muted. So this has a really good throwback to an Old Testament story about God sparing a city as long as there were some number of righteous people within it. But he uses some of these biblical, very biblical analogies to, I think, point out how hypocritical some of Israel's actions are towards Palestine in a very clever way. There's also some stuff at the end of the book that, again, very, very strong religious tones that are very clever. So I would say overall the use of religion here is it's cutting, but it's smart, and I think that also makes it pretty unique. So yeah, I would strong 7.2 overall. This ended up actually being what I gave. 7.2 was exactly what the score was looking back for How to Understand Israel in 60 Days. Obviously a very different story. But yeah, I would say, pray for these people, pray for everyone involved in this. Hopefully, again, the ceasefire that's happening now and the just stuff like this will be avoided in the future. But if you want to see, I think, a pretty compelling case for the hardship involved in all of this, and just, again, understanding this moment and this place and this time in history, this is a very powerful book, and I'll leave it at that.